Hi guys, just a quick, super quick video. Just occurred to me, I know I haven't been making too many videos recently. I spent most of my creativity this week was finishing up an article I wanted to write for a journal, and I finished that. I think it was yesterday morning, and sent it off. So it's going to be what do they call it? Judged or whatever the official word is. Um, so I haven't been making that many videos, so I just had a sort of a quick thought run through my mind. I've started reading or rereading, or no, I started reading again Johnson's Lives of the Eminent Poets, or whatever the exact title is, and just finished up the big section, the big chapter on Milton, and it's fascinating, and it's a very enjoyable read. For someone like me who has read so many things in translation, like with my primary uh, doctoral work on St. Augustine, who wrote in Latin, and then my primary literature love of literature being Russian literature. I haven't over the years I haven't read nearly as much original English writing, if that makes sense, or classics in their original, I suppose. And when I do, like when I read someone great, like George Eliot or Dickens, or any of the great poets, or especially someone like John Henry Newman, um, it's a reminder of how great language can be. And for as great as translators are, there's nothing quite like someone writing in their own language. I could say Nabokov would be a great example of someone who could write extremely well in two languages, Russian and English. Some of his works were originally written in Russian, and some of his works were originally written in English. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So what I want to talk about here is just kind of a quick thought about who whose life would you like to live? Okay, let me explain myself. Amongst all the great writers or artists or people you admire in the past, whose life would you have liked to live? Like, whose experiences would you have loved, and who lived I don't know, a life like a healthy life, a grace-filled life, you know, a rewarding life? Like, some people didn't. Some people, like even some greats didn't live happy lives. Like Nietzsche did not live a happy life. Oh, Tolstoy didn't have a happy life for a big part of his life. Like, he wasn't, unbridled happiness. Um, Kierkegaard wasn't super happy. Could be wrong about that. Obviously, someone like Kafka had a horribly depressing life. No, but you get to be Kafka, right? You get to be Tolstoy or whatever. Um, Dostoevsky didn't have the greatest life on earth. Like, maybe he did. I mean, it's all relative. You don't know what his life was like his relationships, and how much he loved his wives, and how much his family consoled him or whatever. Those things are difficult to tell unless you really really studied someone's life and writings, and even then it's not exactly clear cut. So for me, when I think of someone who lived a happy and interesting life, I don't think of politicians. That to me, or business people, that to me, I don't care how much money you have or how powerful you are. That to me is misery. Um, and I know those people enjoy it. So, I mean, it's kind of like, how do you do a personality transplant? You can't. So, am I asking the question, who lived the happiest life in history, or whose life could you put yourself into and be the happiest? You see, those are two different things. So, I mean, whereas somebody else, like, obviously Tolstoy didn't appreciate what he was given. Like he resented what he was given. Like he was very troubled by the wealth and prestige and status he was given, and spent most of his life trying to reconcile himself to that and to respond to it. And other people strived and achieved great things, and maybe came from nothing and attained something. Like Chekhov is always one great example to me of someone who really had to buckle down, really had to work hard. And I think in the end that he attained some satisfaction. He attained a sense of accomplishment maybe, and some happiness, self-respect or whatever. So, I mean, other people like Charles Dickens, he was amazingly successful, and the only problems he ever had were kind of his own making, I suppose. Like, you think, well, he definitely fell out of love with his wife, and it's kind of sad for us to look at and see, but it's hard to have a lot of sympathy for him. Like, he was a winner in every regard, and that he sort of grew dissatisfied with his wife. Nobody looks at that and says, oh, poor Charles. It's hard to have a great deal of sympathy for that. So, I mean, a lot of it is kind of the novelty of things, like reading about someone like, say, Voltaire. Voltaire became enormously wealthy, celebrated, successful, and all those things. But at the same time, the thing about Voltaire is he would go from affair to affair. He never got married. He fell in love, and he fell sort of out of love, and he lived with people, and he even lived with other people's wives, and he even apparently had an affair, like a long-standing relationship with one of his nieces, which to me, that's not something I want to jump into. It's not something I want to share in. I still have a very romantic notion of Goethe, and a part of me would say, would put him first and say, I want to live Goethe. I would have liked to have lived Goethe's life, because although we're not the same exact person, there's a lot of things in his life that were interesting and exciting, and he had lots of luxuries and prestige and all that stuff. But he was always his own man, and he had a gift, obviously a genius, and he was around a lot of very talented people. All the other great German writers of the time and artists and creators. Got to meet Beethoven. So he's one person I think about. A person that I don't think about, okay, Dante's super fascinating, because we all just want to know what Beatrice looked like, right? That's the thing with it. Like, we all want to know what Beatrice looked like. So, and then sort of in that similar exotic setting, someone like Petrarch, his life looked kind of interesting, and from a modern person, kind of exotic. Like Dante's kind of exotic, but Dante, he was expelled from his homeland, from his beloved Florence most of his life, and embroiled in politics and stuff like that. So to me, that's not a wonderful life. And then someone like Cervantes, he had a really, I think he ended up well, wealthy and comfortable and so on, but he was like some of the things that happened to his characters, some of the pitfalls and trials that happened to his characters actually happened to him as well. Like he was captured by, I guess, Saracen pirates, and he was basically held for ransom for a time in North Africa or something. So it wasn't a super great life either for him. So it's difficult. Like you say, well, I mean, a lot of girls would say, oh, I want to be Jane Austen. That's amazing, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, maybe that's so. And, I guess it's part of it's what you would make of it. Like, when I think of Jane Austen, I think of lonely hours in a cold, dark house. I don't know. Maybe I'm mistaken about that. Lonely Hours, writing, always with her family, in a sort of, I think, a very unremarkable environment. I just picture a cold, empty, dark house, but maybe I'm completely wrong about that, because to me, when I picture, Tolstoy's the environment Tolstoy portrays, and for his characters, the snow and the this and the that, to me it's exotic and wonderful and romantic. But I guess maybe it's because I grew up in an environment like like England, like Nova Scotia is wet and dark a lot like England is. So to me there's no more romanticism. Whereas when I picture Russia, the Russia of Moscow and so on, that's more like my present environment, which is really cold and snowy in the winter and pretty hot in the summer, but beautiful trees and endless vistas of trees and lakes and everything. So I'm still romantically attached to Tolstoy's world. Um, but anyway, if I know I've forgotten a lot of people, obviously, but when I think of that, okay, so maybe you think of Homer looking out on the Aegean or whatever. The say the how does he say it? The red something Aegean, because they didn't have a word for blue or something. Um, so maybe that's your thing, or maybe you're thinking of, I want to have lived Plato's life or Aristotle's life, or Marcus Aurelius or something, Virgil. Like Cicero was great and wonderful, but he was executed or hunted down by Augustus's people in the end and didn't die well in that sense. Seneca was told to kill himself by, was it Nero? Was it Claudius? Can't remember. So anyway, just something to think about, I guess. Who had a blessed life? I suppose in a way, someone who's had a blessed life might not be someone who wrote in with great pathos, because as we've said before, I've said before in different ways, there is a correlation between suffering and art. But obviously it has a limit, right? Like the lives of different people show us, like Nietzsche and Virginia Woolf and Sylvia Plath and so on. But anyway, just a thought, and I know you've thought about it. I know anyone who loves literature has an answer for me. Okay, whose life would you most like to have lived or live or whatever? You know what I mean. Anyway, so for now, Goethe's my winner. But if I change my mind, I'll let you know. Anyway, have a great day, guys. It's Friday. I hope you have a great weekend. Thanksgiving, okay, in Canada. Anyway, take care, everyone.